Boom boom ba boom bam ba boom bam ba boom bam bam ba ba dum bum bum bam bum bam bam.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are on the bottom of page Gimel. The second line from the bottom, that they're saying that the Kav breaks through the Tzimtzum and it is drawn in all the worlds. The Kav, this is a hamshocha, a narrow draw, conduit, but it comes and it is rooted all the way to the source of the Ein Sof. And coming from the Ein Sof, it goes through the Tzimtzum and it breaks through the Tzimtzum in the form of oil, and it comes into the world. It may be a little bit too much, but I'm going to say it anyway. The term B'keyes HaTzimtzum, that it pierces, breaks through the Tzimtzum. What is the implication in that? The Tzimtzum, we already discussed, the Tzimtzum means that the oil element is removed. And what remains is what's called the Rishimu, which means only the bottom line presence. But the oil, the significance, what is its basis, what is its significance, that is completely removed. Like we are saying in our Moshel, if you say, do not touch somebody else's property, the bottommost element of that is that there are multiple owners, that this property belongs to this person, and if you are taking it, you're violating his right. That's the bottommost. There is no element of oil in this. As you pointed out, that this level of quote-unquote ownership exists amongst animals as well. Nothing to do with seichel, nothing with oir hanefesh, with the locus. Then we say, but you should know that you should not touch his property because you're violating a godly principle. God said you shouldn't touch it. That is something which is much superior, much higher than this bottom element. This element is rooted all the way to the very top, that there is a first being, and his truth the truth of this first being, this is what is then disseminated everywhere. All existence represents this his truth. To see it from that perspective, from his truth, that is not worldly. In the world, you have to see it in terms of different domains and different ownership. But from that truth comes a kav and says, yes, this is his, but God said you should respect his property. So there is this is a kav, in other words, it comes in a very definitive, narrow manner. That kav is boiteyas at tzimtzum. It breaks through the tzimtzum. In other words, even though it's light, it's oir, and oir has been removed, but this oir has the power, because it can actually fix itself onto a worldly reality and explain, don't touch this, because God said so. Therefore, it breaks through all barriers. And it breaks through the tzimtzum to continue on to settle in the world as oir, not as a metzius of world, but as a godly metzius, as a godly presence. Thus means the oir is the kav is boikeyas at tzimtzum. It has that power to break through the tzimtzum and bring godliness into the world. Okay, now we continue further. In the higher worlds, what's called the Olam Hazoyin Soif, worlds that are infinite, have an infinity element. Shelifneho Atzilus, that is actually before the Atzilus. Meir Bechinas Atzmus Hakav. There shines the Bechina of Atzmus Hakav, the aspect of Etzem Hakav. A few more words and we'll come back to this. Oboilam Ho'atzilus Meir Ha'oras Hakav. And then in Atzilus shines the Ha'ora of the Kav. What is Atzmus Hakav? What is Ha'oras Hakav? Ha'ora, this is exactly what we were just now saying, that there are, as an example, there are multiple domains, there's a whole world, there are different owners, and we say that these owners literally actually have the right to their possession because of a God-given right, so that the godly presence in the world illuminates that possession. In other words, primarily what you see is the worldly element, the ownership, the owner and his domain. You see the worldly element, but there is also an element of godly reality, of godly light, that says that is something which is so ordained and so bequeathed by God Himself. So primarily you see a worldly element, and then there's a light that shines upon this. And this is the difference between Ha'oras Hakav and Etzem Hakav. Etzem Hakav speaks of the godly truth directly, not as it illuminates a worldly presence. Ha'oras Hakav does not speak of godliness directly, independent of a recipient, of what is the effect of that. Where does that follow? Where is that have an effect? A functional element. This is Ha'oras HaKav. So Elam HaAtzilus is already Ha'oras HaKav. Because in Atzilus, what is the reality in Atzilus? So to speak, that we know what the reality of Atzilus is. But in Atzilus there is spheres. There is spheres, there are kelim. Kelim means there is a presence. And that is a primary element in Atzilus. But that primary element is this kelim are illuminated with a very bright godly presence. And this is why the world of Atzilus is called the Olam Ha'eliki. It's a world, but godliness is very much in the presence, the obvious level. But on Olam Ha'Ein Sof, world of Ein Sof that precede Atzilus. Olam Ha'Ein Sof means that they don't consist of 10 spheres. There is an infinity element in the world itself. So there, the Kav, there's the Etzem HaKav, there is the godly presence directly that defines its existence. Okay. And this is the Kav that goes on. V'im Hayois, and then furthermore, Im Hayois, even though Sha'akav Mistayim Ba'atzilus. Although that, as we always say, that the Kav Mistayim ends in Atzilus. Sha'arei ha'parso mafsekes bein Atzilus l'Biyah. Since that between Atzilus and Biyah there is a parsa, there is a curtain. It's not a direct flow of the Kav from going into Biyah. This is why we say that the Kav Mistayim ends in Atzilus. Going into Biyah, it's already a different type of godly presence. But yet still, Boikeya Oir HaKav as HaMosach, the light of the Kav, Boikeya, pierces through, breaks through the Mosach, this curtain, Omeir Gam Bibiyah, and it shines further even also in Biyah. As it writes in Tanya, so he says over there, Sha'or as HaKav, that the Ha'ora of the Kav. And as we explained, Ha'ora means it's not the Etzem HaKav, it's not the godly presence per se, it's a godly presence as it affects Kelim, as it affects a world. It says Ha'ora as HaKav Shoyomeir B'Kelim De'Atzilus, that was coming through and illuminating in Kelim De'Atzilus, where you were able to see that this is godly. Boka HaParsa Imohem, it broke through, and this Ha'oras HaKav continues on through the Parsa. Umeir Bohem Bibiyah. The Mohem means with the Kelim. The Kelim, the Atzilus, this is the source for the creation of Oilmas Biyah. And just a quick point, that this is something which we can readily kind of relate to, because Kelim have the element of Metzius, and therefore they can continue on into Biyah, into a world of Metzius. But within this Kelim and Atzilus there was Ha'oras HaKav. So as the Kelim break through the curtain that separates Atzilus from Biyah, and it becomes a different kind of Metzius and of Bria, the oil that illuminated the Kelim stays on with the Kelim. And therefore it says, Boka ha-parso imo, breaks through the parso together with them, with the kelim. Umeir bohem bibiyah, and therefore it shines in this kelim, bibiyah, k'moi ba'atzilus mamosh. This oil continues to illuminate in biyah exactly the way it illuminated in Atzilus. Bahainu, which means to say, this is a quote from Tanya in Geras HaKodesh. Bahainu, which means to point the Bechinas Oil HaKav Nimsha B'chol Ho'elamus, that the Bechina of the oil of the Kav is drawn, comes in all the worlds, ad ragli ho'asiyah, till the bottommost, the foot, which means the bottommost level of asiyah. Practically speaking, but this is saying that even in this world, Olam Ho'asiyah, which is essentially devoid of any godly reality, all you see is just a worldly presence. Nevertheless, even there is an element of oir, so that within this worldly presence there is an element of oir that illuminates it and gives it meaning and correlates it to a godly truth. Like we are saying all the time, yes, indeed, the sunlight has been presented in a worldly form, and therefore it is a physical energy that ultimately hits a physical object, and it reverberates from the physical object just like a physical object would, just like a ball would reverberate from a wall. Even though it's not, it's a finer type of object, but still there's a physical element in this. One of the great breakthroughs of Einstein was that he said that light also bends with gravity, because it is also a presence. It has also a physical presence, and it's also affected by gravity. So, in other words, identifying it on the most physical level. Nevertheless, as we pointed out at the end of this hemshech, that there remains an element of light in this. And as we point out that it still remains that we are able to see an object without coming in contact with the object, and we identify an object, we recognize its truth, its reality, without coming in contact, which is a godly phenomenon, which is a spiritual phenomenon. So there is a godly element even at the lowest level of the physical world. And the same thing as we point out all the time, that once you take pieces of wood and put it together in the form of a table, it's no longer wood, it's now a table. How does it become a table? It's still made of wood, but now it acquires a higher presence, a spiritual presence. to the extent that we say that we respect that. We don't go breaking the table because we're just breaking a piece of wood. We're not breaking a piece of wood. Like the story of the Alter Rebbe, that he didn't want to break a snuff box, even though he didn't need it. He just took it apart because it has a godly truth, an element of oil. Within this phenomenon, this oil that continues on, which is the horas of Ha'ora d'Atzilus, continues on into Asiya. There are many different madreges. Be'ofen hamshochas ha'oir b'chol sfira u'sfira b'prat. What is in terms of the manner that the oil is drawn in every sphere individual. There's a difference how the oil is drawn into the sphere of Chesed and the Gvura and Tiferes and so forth. The Hein HaTzinoiris Protim, and these are the individual, the specific Tzinoiris conduits, going back to the moshul of the Eitz Chaim, I think it is. Hamistafim min hakav, that branch off from the kav. The hainu, and what are the differences? What is the difference between the various tzinoiris? Bechinas tzimtzum u'miyud ha'ir. The tzinoiris represent the further contraction and reduction of the oil. Lefi erach hasfiro hahi, in proximity to that particular sphere. And on every level, there's a different type of tzinoir and different type of tzimtzum umiyut. In order to facilitate the presence of that particular sphere, and at the same time to provide for it a godly element, a godly truth.
What's the purpose of that Bechulu?
I don't know, truly.
Etc.
Yes.
The carb going through the Rishimu, this gives it the koyach vul, that it can illuminate all the pratis, the gekalim. That's the purpose of the Rishimu, that the carb can illuminate dvarim mugbalim.
I don't know exactly what you're trying to point out. The kav, as we said, breaks through the tzimtzum, and thereby it illuminates the rishimu. The rishimu is the oir leki devoid of any oir, and the kav, by breaking through the tzimtzum, it is able to illuminate the rishimu. This illumination of the Rishimu is significant throughout the entire Seder Ishtasu, all on different levels.
So it's illuminating the Ragli Asiya. This is an expression of illuminating the Rishimu.
This is similar to that. It's on a totally different level. This is why over here, this is called the Ragli. This is the bottom. This is the lowest world, where the world in and of itself represents absolutely nothing. You talk about, let's say, Kli Chesed. It's Chesed. There is something to it. When you talk about a piece of wood, there is nothing to it, without the oil that is given to it. All right, and this is in this mashal of tzinoiris, many tzinoiris, and as we said, this is necessary. And the only way to form these tzinoiris is when you have on a kav. Again, because a kav represents a noir that is be'erech oilimus, that has a worldly format. And what is the principle of worldly format? World does not exist in and of itself. It is something that's brought into existence. In order that anything should have any kind of proximity, ability to affect world, it has to have that element that it's coming into, that you see where it's coming from. There is a moment where it's not, and it comes. This is called tzinoiris. And in that there are many madrigas. That's why there are many tzinoiris. Ukmoi, as for example, tchilas ha'hamshocha b'vchinas ha'keser. The uppermost level that generally we discuss in Chassidus is Atzilus and Keser Atzilus. So the Tchilas HaHamshocha, the very top and the beginning of the Hamshocha, Bebechinas HaKeser, in the Keser element, Shemei Begilu Yoser, where the Oir HaKav is in greater intensity, greater clarity, greater purity. Umin HaKeser Nimsha B'Chochmo Bino, and then from the Keser, it is Nimshach into Chochmo Bino. That's Chochmo Bino the Atzilus. וגם בתפארס, כמו שכוסו בפרדס. This parenthesis is just alluding to a principle that even though there is Chochmo Bina and then there is the other spheres, the Midos of Chesed, Gvur that are on a lower level, and they receive their Ha'ora through Chochmo Bina. Nevertheless, there is there's a kav, there is what's called the middle kav, the right and left and the middle. Tiferes is in the middle. Tiferes has a direct connect to Keser. Therefore, in Tiferes there is the element of Keser. And because the Rebbe mentions, I just want to point out what is so special about the Tiferes versus the other spheres. In the fact that each sphere has its particular color, its particular inclination. Tiferes correlates. Tiferes incorporates Chesed and Gvura. To be able to, the fact that it incorporates two opposites clearly demonstrates and it gives you the and it tells you straight out that this is something which is higher than an individual sphere. And the reason that it has that capacity is because it relates directly to Keser. Balidei Chochmo Bina, and then via Chochmo Bina Nimshochim Hatzinoires Bezayin Midas Zeh. The Tzinoires continue to be drawn into the 7 Midas of Zoh. Okay.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
It's not clear to me why.
To me too.
Why Tiferes has to be higher than Chesed and Gevurah. I mean, when you mix red and blue, so you get purple. That doesn't mean purple is higher than red or blue. It's just you just put two things together.
Shmuel, you're an artist.
Yeah.
In order to appreciate red and blue, and then to appreciate purple, you need a finer sense of color.
Do I? No.
No? Yes, you do. So you haven't gone deeply enough in there.
Dafka purple over.
No, a non-definitive color.
But that's beside me.
That means that this is representing something broader and deeper and greater. All right, this is it for this morning. Have a good day.
No.